So from literally like 18, 19 until 30, man, I was just struggling. I had side jobs for a long time. And then ultimately just when I was like 26, I quit everything and just went full time, and then struggled for, 5 years, something like that, in terms of like really barely scraping by. But even all of my side jobs were just literally that. They were enough to just get me over so that I had time to pursue my art. And there were multiple times throughout that period, seasons where I felt like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, there's no market for what I'm doing, or my voice doesn't resonate with people. I couldn't figure out how to get signed as a rapper, or I couldn't figure out how to make any money as a poet, and it was definitely difficult. But when you love something truly, it's not a choice. It chooses you.
The Perspective Podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, my guests and I provide the skills for thinking bigger, overcoming adversity, and making an impact with your work. PC family, I'm joined by the poetic people's champs and spoken word storytelling sorcerer, Adam of NQ. Welcome to the Perspective Podcast, brother. It's been a long time in the making. How you doing today?
Thank you for having me, Scotty. I appreciate it, man.
No problem. So to catch people up, for those who don't know, I had the opportunity to see you perform back-to-back years at Lewis House Summit of Greatness. It's kind of where we had a chance to originally connect. And then I guess maybe I creeped on you more than I probably should have on Instagram. But anyway, we built a small...
Because we both know propaganda.
Yeah, that's right. Prop.
That was originally how we fully connected, because Prop and I are great friends and we go back, man. We traveled across the country in a Winnebago battling other crews in different cities. So
no shit. I don't think I even got like the full scoop of how it all happened. But yeah, I think I hit you. I was like, would you ever want to be on the podcast? I see you're friends with Prop. This was Prop's episode, Jason Petty, for those who don't know. So, okay, that makes sense. You know it better than I do. But regardless, this show is the Perspective Podcast for a reason, as I want to challenge the lens through which people see the world, but more specifically creatives. And your performances just rocked everybody in the auditorium. So I wanted to spotlight you with my hungry audience, so you could potentially shift their paradigms as well. So for those who don't know about you and your creative genius, can you give us a brief Wikipedia page summary about who you are and what you do?
I'm actually the worst person to ask about that, because anytime someone reads my bio before I'm about to get on stage, I just get completely embarrassed and I want to hide in the corner. Plus, it really doesn't matter. It's like whatever you say before you perform about me, it maybe impresses people for about 10 seconds. And then they forget about it. And whatever you say on stage is the new moment that you're creating with them. So for me, I'm not a great person to read off my bio, because I feel like my bio is in the past. I'm more interested in the present and the future. But yeah, I mean, I won the National Poetry Slam Championships in 2004 with my team at the Poetry Lounge. I was on HBO's Def Poetry Jam. I was the first poet to perform with Cirque du Soleil. I was one of Oprah's Super Soul 100 thought leaders that she chose. And I have a book coming out with HarperCollins on March 31st called Inquiring Within. I've had viral videos that have reached 70 million, I think, at this point, for the accumulative of all the videos that we've put out. And then I've done a lot of songwriting with different artists as well. And I travel around the country and the world performing my poetry and doing workshops. And it's an absolute blessing. I love what I do, and I'm happy to be here talking with you today.
And we'll talk about your book, and we'll talk about the road to get to where you are. But for me, I didn't even give a shit about any of those credentials, because I didn't even know any of that before I found your content, or before I even had a conversation with you. I didn't even know any of that. Yeah. So like that made it way more real. And you just seemed weird when you read it off right there too. So I know. So like, weird. Yeah, it's weird. You're not trying to hype yourself up. Let me do that for you. But I want to know about the road that led you to where you are today. I want to know about the shitty hardships along the way to get to the highlight reels. Like, what have been some of the most trying times? Like, when did you know you were a poet? And, what were some of the struggles that you had, whether it was internal, believing in the inner critic, or the external non-believers? kind of tell a story about, where you were and how you got to where you were today.
I was born and raised in Santa Monica, California. My mom's a school teacher. My dad was not around. And I fell in love with hip hop when I was like 13 or 14 years old, and loved freestyling, loved the music, loved the expression. And it became an outlet, for me at that point in my life. And then when I was 19, I wound up in an open mic for poets in Los Angeles called the Poetry Lounge. And it's still one of the biggest open mics in the country. I mean, they get 250 to 300 people every single Tuesday night that show up and listen to people read after they sign up on the list. And I not only found a community there, I found a family, and I first started getting up and I just was performing my rapping a cappella. And then over time, just being inspired by the other artists, I started exploring different subjects and different styles. And it was one of the first places I've ever been where I think people were celebrated for their vulnerability. So when they got on stage and they said something that was real and true, people really responded. And I absolutely loved it and never stopped coming back. And from there, I think one day I woke up and I realized I was more of a poet than a rapper. And then I had to figure out how I was going to make a living out of that. And it was many, many, many years before I made any type of money that allowed me any security.
Like how many? Was this all the side hustle? Because this show is Side Hustlers.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't make any money to where I wasn't worried about rent or dinner or whatever, until I was like 30. So, and I didn't go to college. I went to college for 1 year at SF State. I came back and went to Santa Monica College. I got in a fist fight on campus and I was like, fuck this, I'm out.
And you didn't punch him with your words?
No, not at that time. So, not that was the defining factor. I didn't want to be there anyway. That was the whole thing, is I didn't feel comfortable in school. I never felt like I was a particularly good student. I never got great grades. I was always just kind of writing raps in class and, daydreaming. I had a hard time kind of focusing in that way. So, so from literally like 18, 19 until 30, man, I was just struggling. I had side jobs for a long time. And then ultimately, just when I was like 26, I quit everything and just went full time, and then struggled for, 5 years, something like that, in terms of like really barely scraping by. But even all of my side jobs were just literally that. They were enough to just get me over so that I had time to pursue my art. And there were multiple times throughout that period, seasons where I felt like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, there's no market for what I'm doing, or my voice doesn't resonate with people. I couldn't figure out how to get signed as a rapper, or I couldn't figure out how to make any money as a poet, and it was definitely difficult. But when you love something truly, it's not a choice. It chooses you.
Yeah.
And I would say that I was obsessed, for good or bad reasons, to continue to pursue my art and move forward. And, it's a long answer because it's a long question. Ultimately, I ended up getting a publishing deal to write pop songs, basically, for a crew called Rock Mafia, who's also become a huge family to me. And I didn't really listen to pop songs at the time. So I kind of felt like, what am I doing? But I needed to open up a new world for myself, to have some financial freedom, to expand my horizons. And that ultimately was one of the best things that's ever happened to me creatively, because I was forced to go outside of my comfort zone. I was forced to write for people that I didn't know, people that I couldn't really relate to in some ways, and use my imagination and write in a different way, because, poetry and hip hop, it's very rhythmic and choppy. Whereas like, songs are round, it's a very different way of like expressing yourself. There's so much less information that can be put into song, so you have to say something that's layered and deep, but also simple and accessible for the person that's listening. And so I did that for a few years and started to make some money. And then when I went back to writing my poetry, which I never really stopped, but I ended up having tools that I hadn't had previously. And I was able to apply that in expressing my truth. And I focused my energy on figuring out how to break myself into a way to monetize what I love to do. And I was able to do that.
So that whole new world of getting uncomfortable as hell and learning how to adapt to the world of pop, being concise and accessible. So then those tools that you learn from there, you end up bringing back to like your own passion.
Yeah. I mean, I think any tools that you wind up learning in your life can be applied to any area of your life, and I would say more specifically in art, if you're a singer and you learn how to play an instrument, you're going to be a better singer. Not only going to be able to play that instrument, but you're actually going to learn things that you will apply back to your singing. And so I would say that that's the same thing for me. I mean, being an MC made me a better poet, and being a poet made me a better MC. And then being a songwriter affected those things. And then getting into acting affected those things. And then learning how to get on stage and, do longer sets. I mean, when you first start out as a poet, you're doing a 3-minute poem. And then ultimately you get a 5-minute set, and then you get an 8-minute set. It's kind of like a comedian. And then you get a 10-minute set, and then you can do 15 minutes. And ultimately you can't just get on stage and do your poetry. You have to talk to the audience. You have to learn how to relate to them and tell them stories about your life. So I learned how to tell stories about what was going on with me, and to be funny and to be entertaining, and to have crowd participation. And to create a conceptual through line in a show that actually takes people somewhere mentally and emotionally. So all of those things are things that you learn, and the more things that you expose yourself to, the more that you'll be able to apply it back to your first love.
And I think the huge parallel from like the world I live in with people who are listening, a lot of people have day jobs. They just don't hate. It's a stepping stone, or wherever they're at, it's where they need to be during this season, yet they still have that love, that passion on the side. And I teach people to leverage your day job to fuel your dream job. You're learning some kind of task or some kind of skill, a new weapon for your tool set that you then can apply to your, like me, I was a senior web designer at a corporate America, but I learned the user experience. I learned how to deliver a product, and I learned how to do web design that now helps me with my design career, helping other people and coaching people. So I guess I call it
an art.
Yeah.
You are an artist, but even in that corporate environment, you were an artist. You just had to confine yourself to the environment that you were in.
Confined. Yeah. My buddy says, he's like, think like an artist, but execute like a designer, AKA like a marketer. We all create art. Art is for me, but at the same time, how can you get in the heads of someone it could potentially be for, speak to that end benefit? Like you're saying, you need that crowd participation. You can go up there and do your thing, but to turn it into a true performance and entertainment where you got people just itching and craving for more, you have to keep them in mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same thing. So being that, sounds like you just shut up the inner critic. There was no choice. Like a lot of people,
always there. It's
always there, but yet there was no choice. Like passion fuels you. And that's, explain more about that. Like it's still there today. From the outside looking in, it's like, dude, this dude has no fears, like getting up on the stage. And like, how hard was it to get adapted to the stage? And then what are your current biggest fears? Because for me, leaning into the biggest fear has always unlocked the biggest breakthrough, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, having no fears is an illusion. Anyone that either pretends like they have no fears or says that they have no fears, you should immediately not trust them. Because that's just not, real life. I think it has to do with accepting your fears and then deciding not to navigate from that place or using it as a fuel source,
Like Kyle C said, really your fears are excitement. If you can just like flip your perspective.
Well, it's energy.
Energy, yeah.
Energy moving through your body. So the energy, what's the difference between anxiousness and adrenaline? I mean, maybe it's just perspective. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there's a biological difference, but it's just energy moving through your body. So, the first thing is to not, for me, expend my energy fighting my fears, because that just creates more struggle. So if I'm in a situation where I'm doing something that I'm nervous about, the first thing I do is accept the fact that I'm nervous and then decide not to operate from that place. Decide to operate from the place of excitement and the place of passion, and to know that I'm going to do it anyway, and to know that even if it fails completely and I crash and burn, I'm still fucking alive, man. Nobody can take, my self-worth away from me. Not failure, not any human being. That's a choice for me to give that away, and I won't give that away. So, I use my fears. And I accept my fears and I integrate my fears. And I think that's a part of alchemy.
Speaking of alchemy, you fan of the book The Alchemist? I feel like that's something that you would be. That's okay. Speaking of omens and signs. So like where you are today, if you were on stage, what would be like the main thing you would just love to do and perform? Just poetry? If that was like the option, you got a choice. Here's a full stage. This is what you get to do. 50 minutes. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I would perform my poetry, which is a hybrid of all the different arts that I've kind of explored in my life. But definitely the foundation of it is rhymes. It's just the way that rhymes kind of intertwine and the way that you can move people's minds and hearts and even spirits, by words and passion. And so that's why, if I always am writing poems that are true to me, then I trust that ultimately it will be true to other people. Not everybody. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. And some people just, either won't like my poetry or won't like my style or won't like me. And all of those things are okay. I'm not trying to, it's pretentious to think you're going to get every single person in the audience.
Your work can't be for everyone.
Right, exactly. And my energy was always towards the thing that wasn't working, so if I would perceive that someone wasn't into it or whatever, first of all, that could just be my perception. There's been many, many times where I've been like, this person isn't, and they were writing a note on their phone of something that I said, rather than me being like, oh, they're not into it. But either way, my energy would always go towards them, and even if they weren't into it, then I'm giving energy to someone who's not into it rather than giving energy to the people that are. So, I mean, put your energy towards the things that are working ultimately in your life, unless there's a specific problem that you can solve. Definitely, be problem oriented as long as you can be solution minded about being problem oriented. But don't just be problem oriented. It just creates more problems.
So I guess what I'm asking is, for those who haven't heard a little snippet of anything that you do you got anything that you could just drop on a dime right now? A little snippet of your poetry?
Yeah, sure. Life is all about you and not at all about you. Now that's two opposing thoughts, and yet both of them are true. How can we experience everything we choose to do while observing the experience we're having from a higher view? See, it's the question, not the answer, that's the higher view. Otherwise, you couldn't differentiate between the two. Awareness, but of who? I am the journey that I'm getting to. Gratitude is my destination. My destiny is perfectly aligned with this location. I am the map, so my rhymes are like road signs. I have everything I want because my imagination's mine. But mine is not enough for me because I am not my mind. I could see it all and never get to see I'm truly blind. I could be it all, but all identities intertwined. The moon is only bright because it reflects the sun's shine. And I'm not entirely convinced I even write these lines because my DNA is coded by divine design. But if I manifest abundance while humanity is dying, I am equally responsible for all that I'm denying. See, you can tell the truth and still be lying. I did it for years. My perception was a funhouse meme, and my projection was exaggerated on reality till my reflection back was nothing more than technicality. So who am I if I'm not who I am? What if I didn't have my name or my age or my friends? If I didn't do my poetry, who would I be then? The things that I've become are not the things I truly am. And everything I think I own owns me in the end. Existence doesn't owe me anything, quite the opposite. Existence will exist long after I am missed. So the art is more important than the artist is. It's not a human race. It's just the human race. There's nothing left to chase. We do not run this place. But both medicine and poison are acquired tastes. So I started taking selfies of somebody else's face.
Damn, we could just do like a straight hour of just some poems, man. I know that shit's gonna hit home with people like that. What was my art is not mine, or imagination is mine, and what was the art part again you just said?
The art is more important than the artist is.
Yeah, that. Expand on that.
I did that for a song with Zoo.
ZHU Zoo.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's an amazing artist. And it's called The Good Life. And so, but it was something I had written previously. And then he and I met up in the studio and I just kind of dropped it and he created some stuff around it. It's a really, really dope song. People hit me up all the time and said that they hear it at festivals and stuff like that.
That dude's a mastermind. Yeah,
he's a brilliant, brilliant artist. I wrote that, just because I liked that first line, life is all about you and not at all about you. Now it's two opposing thoughts and yet both of them are true. I just really love that. And I think that does connect to the ending, which you were asking about, which is the art is more important than the artist is. And I believe that, I mean, of course, I would protect my life. I mean, my identity is fucking pretty important to me. Living in abundance, of course. I want things. I have goals. I want to accomplish. I have an ego. You can't get rid of your ego, man. Your ego is a part of your humanity. But it's whether or not you decide to navigate from your ego on a moment-to-moment basis. Yeah, I think it's just this idea that, of course, I want all those things and I'm living in this world, I want to be rich, I want to blah, blah, blah. But that in the end, there's also a spiritual reality. And the spiritual reality is that we're all just vibrating energy, man. Most of the universe is empty space. All of the things that we think are solid around us, if you get, it's infinite in, man. It's mostly empty space and then it's infinite out, right? Our bodies are mostly empty space. So if we're all just really vibrating energy, then we're just like a sea of consciousness. And what we create in this world is what we leave.
Legacy.
So, I mean, it's like, yeah. And then I think when the artist feels like they're more important than their art, they lose their voice. That's the direct connection, man. You're a vehicle for your art. You know what I mean? Like it comes through your experience, your thoughts, your emotions, but also like it's not yours. And it's certainly once you give it away, it's not yours. It's whatever it is for other people. So you asked me what my fears are, I'm now giving away this book. I finally have a home for my art. I've taken all of my art and I've put it into this book called Inquiring Within. It's coming out with HarperCollins on March 31st. So whenever anybody hears this, you can definitely go get the book immediately. And yeah, it's a little bit scary to give it away to the world. They've always been these living, breathing documents for me where I would show up and perform and then I would disappear. But now I'm actually allowing people to have it in their own hands and to experience it. And I hate self-promotion, as we talked about in the beginning of this. I mean,
it's gross sometimes, man. A lot of people hate it. It's gross.
Well, it doesn't feel good to hype up yourself And, we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome, even when we pretend that we don't. So to try to prove yourself to other people based on what you've done, I mean, it's just, it never felt good to me. And I never felt like, yo, I'm with Scotty at the fucking thing. I never did that. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. But it does feel good for me to promote this book, because the book is now separate from me. It has its own life, man. It's not about me anymore. So the art is more important than the artist is.
So what can people expect from this book? Because this drops April 1st, no fools. The book is out.
March 31st. All April is National Poetry Month.
And this drops April 1st, so perfect. We just got it the day before. So this is already out there. So can people expect, like what you just ripped off a little bit ago, is that somewhere tucked away in there too that people can reference?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's two halves, right? And if you look at the cover of the book, there's the tree up like this, and then there's the
see the video, you guys. You gotta see this tree.
My puppet, And so there's the roots, and then there's the branches, and it mirrors. And if you turn it to the side, it looks like lungs, And the two halves of the book are inhale and exhale. That's it. And inhale is the, poetic journey, hero's journey, if you will, that I've been on in my life. Everything about my story, And then I would say that the exhale is the social and political poems, which are equally as important to me. And, I mean, as we discussed, there's not only the individual life and the spiritual life, but there's the collective life. And we have to make sure that we're using our voice to call out the things that need to change.
That's perfect. Because I want to teach my students, follow your passion, but also your belief system, your values, your interests. All that is the secret recipe to give you your secret sauce, I guess, what you bring to the table. So a collection of everything. So how do you, I guess, blend everything together, or pick and choose, like, this is going to be entertainment based. This is going to be something that's politically driven based off my beliefs. This is just, a fun one real quick about like the fart and you walked away or something like that. That poem that you had, that one's hilarious too. Like, does it just come within the moment? Do you just create when the iron's hot, when the muse hits you for an idea? How do you collect ideas and how do you put them into action?
Well, the fart and the walk away wasn't a poem. It was just a story I told them between that set at Lewis's thing. I had never told that before. I thought it was pretty funny.
That shit, pun intended, was so hilarious, dude.
Thanks, man. That's funny. That's funny that you remembered that. Yeah, I think what I like to do is I like to make fun of myself.
Not take yourself too seriously?
Yeah, because the poems are so, or can be so serious. And when I'm saying them, I feel that I have a responsibility to live up to the poem. So that could sound corny, by the way, to people out there. They could be like, oh, what does that even mean? But I really do mean that. Like, I feel like the poem, it has a message, and I'm of service to the poem, right? And so when I get up and I speak, I actually try to get out of the way so that I can really express what the poem is saying. And I've never been able to fully get out of the way, but I've always tried. And so I'm very passionate when I'm up there, man. And I'm yelling and I'm fucking getting quiet and I'm, I can get emotional. And
it's like a roller coaster, dude.
It is. Each one is kind of a ride. And then, if I do a longer set, the whole thing is kind of a ride. So I like to make fun of myself in between. Because
just inject that little comic relief. Yep.
Yeah. But it's not only that people have a release, which is super positive, but they also, they are able to lean in more because they go, all right, this dude doesn't think he knows it all, which is basically like the truth. I'm talking to myself when I'm writing my poems.
Yeah. It's a relatability factor.
Say it again, bro.
It's a relatability factor. It doesn't place you on this pedestal, amongst human beings like me. It brings you down here more.
I'm in my own audience. I'm my first audience member.
Yes.
When I write, I'm fucking talking to myself. So I don't ever think I'm better than anyone. That is not my philosophy in life. I don't care how successful I get or or if I fail, I don't think anyone's better than me, and I don't think I'm better than anyone. And, this consumerism society that puts us on, pedestals or in the gutter. I mean, it's just absolute bullshit. And we validate ourselves externally. I mean, that's what Inquire Within is really about. I mean, I know I'm going off topic, but the subject of Inquire Within is that consumerism basically takes from you constantly. It takes your likes, it takes your love, it takes your money, it takes your energy, it takes your information these days. It takes your time. The only thing that you can't buy back, it takes all of that. And it teaches you and me to externalize our value. We seek validation outside of ourselves. If I don't know something, I look on Google, or, I look on YouTube. I consult, outside of myself. And while technology is amazing, and it is amazing, by the way, the fact that you and I can do this, we're not even in the same state right now. It's going to go out to whoever listens to it and impact them, maybe not at all, or maybe in ways that are very deep that we'll never find out about. That's amazing. But there's a difference between using tools and having your tools use you. And so, I think this externalizing of our validation is extremely, extremely dangerous. And people have lost contact with their own voices, with that thing inside of them that tells them what they need. There's too much noise, man. No one can find the silence to even hear themselves. So for whoever's listening to this, if you have something that's going on right now that's difficult for you, that you don't know the answer to, yeah, sure, you can definitely ask a friend, you can consult a coach, you can do any number of things, but also try to be by yourself for a while. Go sit in nature and allow the noise to go away so that you can hear that one true voice that will tell you what your true north is. And, no pun intended, but inquire within. I had to inquire within to create the book. I hope that people inquire within the pages of the book and inquire within themselves. And I hope that this book is a window for people to listen to that one true voice within themselves.
Yeah, man. So is meditation huge for you?
Yeah. That's a non-negotiable part of my life.
I love that. I think everybody should have a list of non-negotiables. I call it a hell no list and a hell yes list. What's kind of your practice for meditation? Because I'm really getting more into it, because after getting laid off from my safe job last November, yeah, exactly. It didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And that's like how I want to present it to other people. I don't want pity. This was just the universe pushing me before I was ready, but I prepared myself all these years for the opportunity. But I was dealing with some mad anxiety, insomnia. And so like nightly meditation has been huge for me. But what's kind of like your method, or how did you get started? What's kind of your practice today? That's something I really want to push more.
There's an amazing woman named Emily Fletcher, and she taught me. She has a book out as well, and she's with HarperCollins. I'm specifically with Harper One, which is who does The Alchemist, by the way.
Nice.
But I don't remember the name of her book at this point. But Emily Fletcher's Ziva meditation is her technique. And it's basically another version of Vedic, which is a mantra-based technique, but it's definitely through all of Emily's experience. And she's an incredible teacher. And so she taught me over 4 years ago, and I've been meditating twice a day ever since, and I haven't missed one. And it's something I'm really proud of. I don't say that from the standpoint of like, I did this. It's something I'm actually surprised that I can say out loud. I've never been that disciplined in anything except for my art. Any other area of my life, man, I'm on and off disciplined. I'm either really disciplined or I completely fall off. And I've meditated twice a day for over 4 years, and it has been an absolute game changer.
How long at a time?
I do 22 minutes each time, so 44 minutes a day. 20 minutes is the meditation specifically with the mantra. And then 2 minutes is kind of a cool down period. And I've used that for various things. I mean, for a very long time, years, like I was manifesting during those 2 minutes and just really envisioning what I wanted to create. And then at a certain point, I kind of realized that, it was almost like I felt like I was in the manifestation portion. I was planting a seed every day, but then I was digging it up at the next meditation to replant it. And I never like gave it time to grow. So I think manifestation is super important, but also space to allow the manifestation to take root is really important. So then I shifted to something else. Sometimes I sit in silence. Sometimes I just have a few words that I like to repeat to myself, just to remind myself of how I want to feel. A lot of like self-love stuff, which is like another thing that people, I don't know how love became corny to people, but you know, it did. Oh, self-love or love for other people. It's corny. It's like so ridiculous.
I work in an industry where the topics I talk about or this conversation right here could be considered corny to some of the more higher respective design. You know, it's all about design, create for glory versus creating for the impact that ripples on far after you're buried 6 feet deep.
Yeah, glory is external.
Yeah.
Love is internal. If it's true, right? And I mean, honestly, dude, who doesn't want to love themselves and be able to love people more cleanly? When they really look at it, you know, when they remove all the stigmas and stuff like that, you know? So I definitely work on things of that nature as well.
So is law of attraction and gratitude practices big in your life?
Yes, I think law of attraction is, first of all, no one knows what they're talking about,
No.
including me.
The book.
I have no fucking idea what I'm talking about.
Just you keep talking about manifestation, and for me, that's big. Visions, manifestation, like that's huge for me.
Yeah, cool. Well, how is that huge for you? What is it done?
For me, it's just projecting myself in a future where I can't see right now, and trusting that my reality is going to align with my mindset.
Right.
You know, like things like that have been big, or understanding things like money. You know, we've been able to pay off a lot of debt, even if I got let go, but I constantly have a specific thing in mind, or I visualize the end result of a big talk that I have coming up or something like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I hear that. I believe in law of attraction. I also think that people can, and I think people can because I did, you can overdo it. You can, you know, there's a thing about law of attraction where you only focus on the things that are positive in your life. And that's, to me, a little bit delusional. Like I've seen people that are delusional, that are just like, oh, everything's amazing, to the point where they're actually like suppressing their negative emotions. Your negative emotions are a part of your life experience. So, you know, suppressing them only just like, they don't go anywhere. They
you got to feel the feelings.
In other ways. What's that?
I said you got to feel the feelings. What, like Marissa Peer talked about that one, like feeling feelings and let them go away on their own, in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah, you let them wash through you, but you don't operate from that place, right? So it's like you feel your sadness, your jealousy, your anger, you know, and you feel through it, and you know, sometimes I'll over exaggerate it in a safe way, and then I release it, so that I can move on truly and be more in the moment rather than my projection of reality. Otherwise it comes out in traffic, or it turns into disease, or, you know, when you suppress it. But I do think law of attraction is, of course, like it makes logical sense to me because of the fact that we're all vibrating energy.
Yeah.
So because we're all literally vibrating energy, and cells change their behavior based on whether or not they're being observed, which is a scientific fact, then it would make sense that if you change your thoughts and you change your behavior, your frequency would change.
Yeah.
And if you change your frequency, you will change what you're attracting and what you're attracted to. Because it's not only what you're attracting, it's what you're attracted to. And it's not only what you're attracted to, it's what you're attracting. So, you know, you change your frequency, you'll change your experience. And that has a lot to do with your thoughts and stuff like that. But you know, this idea that I'm only going to be positive, I think that's bullshit.
Agreed. And why it's been so powerful for me, because I lived in that victim mentality, self-sabotaging world for so long, wondering why nothing ever happened good for me. Like the world's against me. I spent like 25 years in that world. You know, so it's been a mental shift for me too. Out of respect.
Why were you in that world? Like why did that? I mean, I can certainly relate to that, but I'm asking why you. Where did that come from?
I've done some super deep, uncomfortable digging, and a lot of it stems from my past, getting bullied and losing in sports, like severely tormented and bullied, like hardcore. Mm-hmm. and just never winning from the background, the place that I'm born and raised, it doesn't have a good name. So I thought all these parts of my past identity defined who I was at my core. And I had to break away from these limiting beliefs and these stories that I told myself and paint a picture of who I wanted to be and how to do it and believe that I could accomplish these things. And it's like when I changed that frequency, I just got fed up with being a bitch, to be completely honest. That's when I felt like the floodgates of opportunity started flowing my way. You know, I catch myself that inner critic, that fourth grader who was just bullied because he had a bowl cut, braces, and a pair of JNCOs when they weren't cool anymore. You know, like you fit a laptop in that damn back pocket, but like that still lives within me at times. So it's more like the meditation these days, silence, finding the silence has been huge for me to, you know, silence that inner critic, because it suffocates the voice of encouragement and reason, which I really lean on heavily, I guess. Like I'm just trying to win more days. I'm trying to bat over 500 in my life with the war in my head right now. If I can win 4 out of 7 days, then that's a good ass week, and I'm making progress and momentum moving forward.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, there's many levels of that, but one level is just mentality, and then another level is behavior. So it's like, you know, there's, you know, even if you can't stop the record from playing on repeat, you can change your behavior, which I think is super important. So if you actually identify in your life, what are your negative behaviors, negative in quotation marks, but it's just like shit that isn't working for you, or that continues to perpetuate things in your life that you don't want. And then you make a list of the things that are positive in your life. You can just cut out the negative shit and only do the positive shit. I mean, you literally could just do that. Everybody could.
Harder when it's the negative shit's people.
Yeah, it's hard to cut out people. I mean, Gary Vanderstart talks about that a lot. But I mean,
see, I'm cool with trimming fat, but when it comes to family, that's a little harder.
Yeah, I mean, but you also have to protect your life force, man.
Your energy and your time.
I don't know what to say. You're only here for a certain amount of time. You have a responsibility, you know, but it's your choice what that responsibility is to your family and to your friends. I mean, and I think the highest responsibility that you have is to yourself. You know, I said this in a podcast the other day. If you're not willing not to be liked, then you will never truly be loved. You know, there's everybody's trying to squeeze into what other people want and need, and it's just exhausting. It's so much energy, man. It's like how amazing would it be to just fucking spread your wings and just be, you know? I'm talking to myself too, or anyone else who's listening. I'm not even necessarily talking to you, but I just think that ultimately your life is yours. You know, you're not like, I mean, you are someone's son and, you know, a father, and you are all these roles, of course, but like, you know, your kids will learn most from your example, not from what you say. You know, if they see you living a life that's charged and inspired and in love with your woman and all of these things, that's way more than anything anyone could tell them. You know, they watch and they go, well, this is what's possible. They feel the energy, you know? So I think, you know, limiting the things that reduce your energy, you know, is good for everyone. I think it's of service for everyone. And if it's a codependent relationship that's like super negative, then at least maintaining the same level of connection in the same way that it's been in the past will continue to perpetuate the same thing. It doesn't even give the other person an opportunity to shift or grow, because people only shift or grow when there's a shift in their environment, when there's something that's a break from the pattern, you know, that they actually have to go, oh, you know, they kind of wake up out of their slumber for a moment and then decide if they want to do anything different, or they lull themselves back to sleep, you know?
Damn. Shit's deep. This is for creatives, but man, this is more universal principles of life, you know, with just a creative bass on top of it. So
you can go creative too, man.
No, this is, again, Perspective Podcast for a reason. Like a lot of times you could just talk about art and design and clients and pitching and selling, but I want to go deeper, because it's
the deeper, I will say that the deeper, at least in the last few years, I mean, I've put in 25,000 hours, man, on my art. So, I'm past like the outlier stage. And that's not for me to be like, I'm the dopest. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying logically, I have passed those hours. So for me at this point, it's actually like, the more I work on myself, the better of an artist I become. It's like, I don't really need to practice anymore. I need to prepare, but I don't need to practice. It's better for me to go do an improv class or to go to a bodywork person, than it is for me to sit and try to write a poem today if I'm not inspired. No, I just wait until I'm inspired again and I live life. It's better for me to travel. It's better for me to,
That's where the inspiration will come.
Yeah. So to whoever's listening to this, when you work on yourself, you work on your art.
Damn. Let me write that note down. Love it, man. Let's transition into some rapid fire questions. That way I can respect your time today. You always got a busy ass schedule. So if you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be?
Well, shit. If I was on death row.
On the spot.
If I was on death row, I would do, I'm only eating fish now. I transitioned out of the meat, man.
But this is death row.
I know, but I think at that
point. It's a non-negotiable?
I would say, well, at least I want to go out, doing something positive. I think I would get a large vegetable. But see, I'm not a vegan, so I would get real cheese. I'd get real cheese, but then I'd get vegetables. And I would, that's what I would want. Vegetables and cheese, just a big vegetable pizza.
That is like the safest answer out of 100 people.
It's real. It's a real answer. That's what I want right now. That's what I want at this moment. Now, maybe in a year I would change. I mean, who knows who I'll be at that point. But at this moment, the reasons I decided to stop with the environment and the treatment of animals. And
that makes complete sense. And that's like, I want people to enjoy things. So people who get on other people for pineapple on pizza, just let people enjoy things. Okay. I'll let you enjoy that.
Pineapple on pizza. Yeah. If I can put whatever you want on. I'll put hummus on pizza. Who gives a shit? Just enjoy your life.
Oh, if you could have lunch with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Okay. Fuck. Dead. I mean, I have more than one. It would be very difficult for me to choose one.
You can just rattle off a couple. Okay. It's rapid fire, but mostly it's
tangent. I would love to have lunch with Bob Marley, Martin Luther King. I would love to have lunch with Rumi. I would love to have lunch with Gandhi. Those are the first people that came to my mind. Alive, Dave Chappelle, Kendrick Lamar. Oprah would be fascinating. But then there's lots of Cheryl Strayed is a great author. I love her work, Wild, and Tiny Beautiful Things. I think that would be a really interesting conversation. My list would just go on and on, man. The people are so amazing, dude. There's so many amazing people in the world. Then that's the problem. Everybody gets bored. They get calcified in their adult routine and they stop being surprised by life or people. People are fucking awesome, man. You just have to actually talk to them.
Get off your phone, your biggest addiction in your pocket, hence the video you just posted. But okay, two more quick ones. If you were reincarnated, what would your new career path be outside of songwriting, poetry, and performing?
I think that I would like to be more involved in activism. I think in general, you know, a lot of my poems are talking about things, but then I see people doing things. And I hope that my poems inspire people to do things in reality. But when I see activists out there on the front line standing up for what they believe in, I just have a real feeling of admiration and respect.
Okay, that's dumb. Damn, I should have put this one before. Do you believe in aliens or life forms existing outside of our solar system?
I think it's very illogical to assume that if the solar system is real and we're not in a simulation, that there's not life somewhere else. It's just too infinite. It's literally, it just goes on. It doesn't go on for forever, but whatever our concept of forever is, it goes on for that long. And there has to be life out there. Now, whether or not it's intelligent life or they've created spaceships or they've shown up here, I don't know. Anybody who I've ever met who's like really super into that, there's always something a little bit, I'm like,
LSD and angels, man.
Yeah, exactly. But I do believe that we're not alone.
Perfect.
Alone, you know?
Exactly. I'll take that. So where can people go to follow you online, support you, and what other kind of tour dates you have coming up? I think you got something early April that people can.
Yeah, we have a big show in New York on the 28th of March. We have a big show in San Francisco on the 1st of April and in LA on the 3rd of April. And the book is out now, you know, and so please, you know, go pick it up and hit me up, you know, let me know, you know, tag me in it. I just want to spread the word as much as possible. I absolutely love this book. I believe in it. I'm proud of it. And I'm happy to finally give it away to the world, you know, all of this art that I've been writing for 25 years. And we have 60 illustrations. So the illustrations like are very, very deep and help to kind of bring somebody into a deeper experience of the poetry as they're reading. And then I have the audiobook as well that we just finished recording. That's fucking amazing.
I could only imagine if it's like a straight performance from you.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 hours, man, but it's awesome. It's like a quadruple album. And we really, really spent our time working on it and making sure that it represented the pieces the way that we wanted. And ultimately, I'm really proud of it and excited to give that away as well. So there's different ways that people can consume it, and you can get it on, you know, my website, which is in-q.com, or you can get it, you know, on Amazon. It should be in local bookstores. It should be all around. So, you know, and then hit me up on social media. I'm at InQLife. And let me know what you think of the book.
Yeah, I'll be sure to give away one of your giveaways as well, too. So I'll make sure someone in the audience will get that. Dude, this has been awesome. Adam, thank you so much for your time today. I'm absolutely honored. I know people are just going to have their faces melted with absurd amounts of value and challenging insights. So thank you so much again for your time. Do you have anything you can let our listeners depart with?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me, man. I never take it for granted. Everybody works for connecting with their audience and creating that relationship. And so for you to like open up those doors for me and allow me to speak to the people that trust you, that means something to me. So thank you very much. This is called Learn Fear. This is in the book as well. Learned fear can be overcome when you realize the voice inside your head is not yours. It's an imitation of the voices from before, repeating on a loop inside your quiet core, receiving since your youth when your choices weren't even yours. Perceiving was the proof, but reality has many doors, so why are we still fighting other people's wars? Learned fear can be overcome when you realize the voice inside your head is not yours. It's an imitation of the voices from before, repeating on a loop inside your quiet core. And you can't tell the difference because it sounds the same. But trust me when I tell you, most of what you think is from somebody else's brain. They have us trained, shackled by imaginary chains. Imaginary rules for imaginary games, but they don't know the reasons either. So where should we place the blame? And who is they anyway when we're all the same? Our parents had parents, and their parents had parents. Apparently, it hurts to see, so I'll be transparent. The world is so much bigger than your insecurities. And they don't speak on your behalf without your soul's authority. The world is so much bigger than your culture or community, and they don't speak on your behalf without your soul's authority. Because if it's all a story, then nobody else can tell it for me. Since I'm always transforming, I defy a category. When you do the same thing the same way, it's habit forming. But nothing in this land of mortal man is mandatory. It's all just transitory. Our world's a laboratory. Experimenting on today can change tomorrow morning. And since matter is mostly empty space, we're in a sea of consciousness where the boundaries are erased. So I stared at my reflection until I couldn't see my face. Then I picked myself and put the flowers in an empty vase. If you came for validation, then you're in the wrong place. The only certain satisfaction is becoming what you've chased, and there's no running from the inner voice. So it's important that you choose, but it's more important that you know you have a choice. You have a choice. Are you living someone else's life? You have a voice. Does it haunt you in the dead of night? Would you fly if you weren't convinced to be afraid of heights? And who convinced you anyway? They had no fucking right. Right? No one can dim your light. You shine within so bright that you could blind the sun from sight and scare him back into the night. No one can dim your light. I said it twice because you're greater than the circumstances that surround your perfect life. You're not your nature or your nurture. You're a prototype. And if you hone it right, eventually you'll hack your satellite. A little to the left, a little to the right, just right. At first, it's nothing. Then nothing turns into a whisper. Turn the dial and it gets crisper in your transistor. Wait a while and the whisper turns into a scream. It overwhelms your system and you won't know what it means. But pump the volume up and it can tell you all your dreams till pretty soon it's the only voice you'll ever need. Now all you have to do is listen when you want to lead. Your fear disintegrates when you decide to stop and breathe. It's your authentic voice. No matter where you go, it never leaves. And that's God, no matter what religion you believe.
Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.